So thank you, Chairman Morelli. Thank you for holding this hearing today. Thanks to our witnesses for being here and helping us deal with the issues of trafficking and criminal violence in our communities. I especially want to welcome Mr. Bill Napier, who possesses years of experience as a security analyst, a firearms compliance consultant, and a law enforcement officer. Mr. Napier helped launch Operation Secure Store to prevent the theft of firearms. Recent shootings in your state and my state underscore the need to keep firearms out of the hands of dangerous individuals and to prevent their theft and to remove illegal firearms from commerce. So certainly I look forward, Mr. Napier, to hearing more about Operation Secure Store and any efforts that we at the federal level can undertake to keep America safe. Now, yesterday, back home in the Dallas Morning News, it was reported that the Department of Justice, in conjunction with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, the Dallas Field Division announced the indictment of a man who purchased over 90 guns illegally and then resold them. Many of these guns were used in crimes, including homicide, aggravated assault, and drug trafficking. The person was also charged with making false statements during the purchase of a firearm. Unfortunately, according to a Department of Justice Inspector General report from 2018, only 1% of individuals who lie on their background forms, Form 4473, ever are prosecuted. Even worse, ATF does not recover all the firearms illegally in commerce as a result of these illegitimate purchases. So, not related to today's hearing, but previously I introduced a bill, H.R. 194, to require the Department of Justice to again study and report to Congress on this issue so we can be better prepared to help protect Americans and recover illegal firearms. Now, Mr. Morelli's legislation, which is included in this hearing, H.R. 4423, the Gun Theft Prevention Act, seeks to prevent gun thefts from stores and federal firearms licensees. We must find a way that we can work with our lawful sellers to prevent thefts and gun trafficking. Just as an interesting side note of the story reported in the Dallas Morning News yesterday, the individual who illegally purchased and then diverted the many firearms, the actual point at which the firearms were purchased, lost the license, but otherwise received no special scrutiny or prosecution. Perhaps we can hear a little bit more about that from Mr. Napier or any of our other witnesses this morning. This hearing is also about just reducing violence in our communities, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention a successful program that occurred in the district that I represent, 26th District of Texas, to do just that. I live in one of the most rapidly growing parts of the country. It's the area just north of the DFW airport. A lot of people are moving there. Every year in the month of April, I do an emergency preparedness summit. My staff refers to it as the Tornado Summit. We have a lot of people moving to the area. We live down at the tip of Tornado Alley. And while we don't have the majority of the tornadoes that will occur, of those tornadoes that do occur, we are the most densely populated area and we are growing rapidly. So many people move to our area who really don't understand some of the peculiarities of Texas weather. So I do this summit every year. This year in April, and it was right at the end of April that we did the summit, I also invited the chief of the Argyle Independent School District Police Department to talk to us about school safety because he has a rather unique program that he has instituted in the school districts, relatively large school district in the suburban area of Denton County. I met him several years ago after one of these events occurred, and I'll just never forget his comments to me. He and the superintendent decided they were not going to go to 20 funerals in Argyle, Texas. So he put together this program, and we can talk about it in a little bit more detail. It's not really part of the hearing that we have here today, but part of it does include arming personnel on a voluntary basis and the proper training. And I know that can be controversial in other parts of the country, but it seems to be working where Chief Kearney had set it up. But he also had a card that he gave to every teacher. It's sort of like one of those life alert buttons. Any teacher can shut the school down. Ask questions later, something that makes you uncomfortable. Maybe it's a shooting at a funeral home across the street after a car accident. Shut the school down, then figure out what to do next. And Chief Kearney reported that there had been a time or two where things got shut down. Maybe that when they unwound everything, maybe it wasn't necessary, but he'd far rather face that than what might be the alternative. But I do hope we can talk about those types of programs in a broader context, but I thought it would be useful to at least bring it up today that many of these problems do have local solutions. Drew Ferguson, a member from Georgia, and I have worked on legislation called the BIG Act, passed the House now twice, still awaiting activity over in the Senate. The BIG Act stands for Behavioral Interventional Guidelines. So often we hear that everybody knew this kid was trouble, but no one knew what to do about it. No one knew who to go talk to. So trying to provide some framework where educators and administrative staff and teachers will be armed with the necessary tools for the proper type of behavioral intervention when it's required. Regardless, reducing the trafficking in illegal firearms will limit the ability for dangerous individuals to pose a threat to schools, houses of worship, or retail stores. We wish we could be better preparing our campuses, our school staff, and our local law enforcement to prevent and respond to these situations, because that's an important piece of the puzzle. But again, look forward to hearing from our witnesses today. Thanks to all of you for being here, and I'll give it back to the chairman.